Hello everyone and welcome back to my channel. I am Abe with MysticGenMara.com, and today is going to be a little bit different of a video. Instead of doing the usual kind of educational stuff primarily, this one is going to be a vlog, and I don't have an external camera to take around with me yet, but I'm working on that. But last week on the 10th of August, I had some at work, my day job, I had a very interesting experience. Interesting is a good word for it. My mic's being weird. But it turned out to be not a bad thing. But I figured we could talk about that a little bit today and then explain kind of how I was able to see and put the things together, and how, well, not just me, my coworker and I. And I won't use names with this just because of respect for them and their privacy. But things happened last week, and it was really, it could have went really bad, but it didn't. And first and foremost, everyone is safe, so that's the benefit of all of this. But at my day job, I do a lot of outdoorsy stuff, a lot of hiking, a lot of talking to the people, a lot of cleanup, stuff like that. But we have an extra job this year, kind of like not so much a bonus, but a timed project that has to be done within a certain window of time. And that would be painting 12 buildings. They're outbuildings. They're not huge, but they're there. And they're scattered across several miles, so it's not like we can just go somewhere and do one. We have to literally pick one or two and work on those for our work week. And it's painting, and it is a lot of painting. But we've been trying to do about 3 buildings a week, and we have to do it in a certain window of the summer because it requires heat for the type of paint we're using. So last week we got 3 of the toilets prepped, got them all cleaned and ready to go, because that is our vault toilets, which is gross, but it's true. But we got 3 of them cleaned and ready to go, and then we started hitting delays almost immediately after that. So delays with just office and meetings and things like that basically are, in my mind, a waste of what our time is, because we're supposed to be outdoors, and we had to deal with this other stuff. So we were a little bit behind, and we were trying to push and get some stuff accomplished, the usual running behind and having to hurry. But on the 10th of last week, which was Wednesday, we were about 7 to 8 miles out of town, and we were painting one of these buildings. It was actually the 6th one that we've been working on. We've got 5 completed so far, which is huge. And if you've ever done a lot of painting, you'll know how much of a nightmare this is. We've taped and taped and taped. So much tape was used for these projects, and we're not even done yet, and we need more tape. But we got the interior all taped up, and we got the paint rolled on the sides and the roof, and this was a roof we had to do the entire thing. Some of them have a different form of plastic on it, so we just wash it and leave it because you can't paint it. And so we got everything ready to go, and we just stepped outside to get away from the paint fumes, and just to let it dry a little bit before we closed it all up, taped everything, and then did the outside. While it was drying interior, the roof is just at too steep of a pitch to comfortably get up there and paint it by hand, so we were using an extended roller. So I'm rolling the roof, my coworker's taping the windows and the doors and getting everything ready to spray the outside, because we can actually spray the outside. The inside's too small of an area. We tried that and ended up with white paint everywhere. It was very bad. And so as we were going, the sky started to darken a little bit, which was a blessing. Get a little break from the sun, because it was really intense standing out there. But it looked like it might have been some rain, so we put a pause on everything and just kind of took a minute to see what was going to happen, because you don't want to spray paint if it's going to rain, and we couldn't do the floor because we're using an epoxy type floor, and those can't have humidity or cool temperatures when you pour them, or they never set right. So we were just kind of hanging out waiting, and finally it started to clear up just a little bit, and we were like, okay, the clouds are breaking up, it's not going to rain. So we got the paint all together and mixed and got the sprayer hooked up and plugged into the generator and going along, and got to the very last wall and the generator dies. We were completely out of gas. Literally, we had one wall left to paint. It was less than 4 feet in width and about 5.5 feet tall or something. It really was a small amount of the wall to do. And the funny part is we talked the day before about being low on fuel for the generator, and we need to refill it, but we got back and it was one of those end of the day, let's get the heck out of here, we're done. And so my coworker hops in the truck and heads to town to get fuel, and it was going to be about a half an hour. Dirt roads, slow speed limits, things like that. And so since it was going to be so long, I didn't want the paint hardening in the sprayer nozzle, so I took it all apart and was cleaning it up. And just a few minutes after I got done cleaning it up and I was setting everything out to let it dry, here comes a misty rain. Why, I don't know. Just life was really not being good this day as far as this part of it goes. And then as I was kind of watching it, started throwing some drop cloths over stuff, it kept getting more and more intense to the point where we were having a pretty good sized rainstorm for central Idaho in August, when normally we never see rain. In August, it just doesn't rain here unless it's associated with lightning and thunder, and then we have wildfires. So rain is not something that's very common, and it's really not something we want in August because it usually has thunderstorms with it. And so I start pulling the generator and the paint sprayer and getting the paint out of the way, and because we don't want any water in all this stuff because it'll just make it hard to use, So we get everything moved into the, I do, because coworker was in town getting fuel, get it all moved up into the, under the awning so it would be out of the rain. And about the time I get everything moved up under there and it's just kind of raining and I'm like, this is stupid. My coworker returns about a half an hour later with the gas for the generator, so we get everything fueled back up, and it's still pouring rain. We're not painting anymore, so we flush the hoses, and we need the generator to do that anyway. Get everything cleaned up, putting everything away, wrapping machines in garbage bags to keep water off of them, getting paint lids closed back up, and washing brushes and all that fun stuff, and loading everything into the truck. Well, once everything was in the truck, we do a quick walk around, which is just kind of a standard anymore when we have this many tools scattered around because of the project we're doing. And we notice that I have notes because this was such a crazy day that if I didn't write the stuff down, I would have lost it. But during the walk around, we noticed that the back passenger tire on our 1-ton truck is going flat quickly. So we back the truck onto a flat spot because we were on a little bit of a ledge at the time, a little bit of downgrade. Back it up into a flat spot, get out, and start trying to knock the lug nuts loose. Well, then it was, where's the car jack? Where's the tire iron? So as a PSA for anyone who watches this, know where your tire iron, your jack, and your spare tire are on your vehicle at all times. It doesn't matter if you're driving along city streets or dirt roads. Knowing where that is and how to use it is going to save you a lot of frustration when this does happen. It happens to all of us. It happens frequently. Just being aware of where the stuff is a huge time saver. So once I finally found the tire irons, then it was, where's the car jack? Well, in the vehicle we have, it's the tire irons are behind the driver's seat on the floor, and it's a 2-seater or 4-seater, so the jack is behind the passenger side rear seat. Why they couldn't have them together, I don't know. This is the first vehicle where they've been divided that far. That's why I'm saying double check where all that stuff is. And being the type of truck that we had, the spare tire is underneath by the back axle. So, and it's still raining heavily at this point for August in Idaho. Get the spare tire dropped out from under the truck, finally get the rest of the lug nuts knocked loose, get the truck jacked up so that we can get all the lug nuts off. And finally they're off, and we're like, yay, go to remove the tire. It's stuck. It will not budge. It's pretty much like, I'm here and I'm staying. So we kick it a few times and try to, rank on it a little bit, trying to knock it loose. It's pretty much like, no, absolutely not moving. So, being an Idaho redneck rules, if it's supposed to move and doesn't, here comes the WD-40. Very messy. It can be an issue keeping your lug nuts on later, so this is a last resort type of a thing. But we did get it on there, let it set for a little bit, and that was enough to knock the goo behind the tire that was holding it in place loose. And it's just mud and dirt and wear type thing that seals them on like that. But it finally gets knocked loose. We get the new tire on, crank down the lug nuts on the spare as hard as we can. WD-40 doesn't really work so well with that, but we got them on there, so we'd have to check them frequently until we got it to the mechanic. We load up the spare tire back underneath the truck because you're not putting it inside. There's no room in the bed. And start heading down the road. The whole time we're on a gravel parking lot. It is pouring rain. We're both drenched at this point. And it's like kind of funny, just the irony of like, oh, we haven't had a flat tire yet this year. Ha ha ha. We got it loaded up. We're good. We get in the truck, go to leave the project site, and we bounce over something with the front tire, jarring us in the truck, knocking stuff around in the bed, and turning the steering wheel to hopefully avoid whatever it was with the back tire, and, well, that didn't work. Bounce up, slam down, and instant hissing. A second flat tire. Just kind of the way the day was rolling. This was one of those frustrating but almost inevitabilities type thing. And so we get out of the truck. There's 2 5-gallon buckets of our cleaning water that were launched out of the back on the second bounce. And when it bounced the second time, it was hard enough to slam one of our paint buckets down and cracked the bottom of the bucket of paint. So we've got paint pouring out in the bed of the truck. We've got 2 buckets we're chasing up the road. And we have another flat tire. Well, it wasn't just a flat tire. It actually dented the rim, which that's a first for me, but it wasn't for the dented rim was a first for both me and my coworker. The 2 flat tires thing, I've had that experience before. It's really frustrating, but it's not much you can do about it. And so we get the truck into a parking spot where it's at least not going to go anywhere. E-brake, and we get out. Couldn't contact anyone because where we were at, there was no cell phone service. It's one of those like series of unfortunate events that once it starts, it just snowballs. And which was no cell phone service was just frustrating as heck at this point, because who do you call when you're out in the woods? You call someone that's got a vehicle, and there's no one we could call. So we lock up the truck and start heading down the road, trying to find service. Knowing the area where we were at, we were on a 4-mile dirt road, and the first 3.5 miles of it from where we were at to where we had cell phone service was about 3.5, 4 miles. So we were walking down the road. Frustration is really starting to boil over for both of us, just because of the rain's slowing at this point, thankfully. And my coworker was frustrated because the truck had 2 flat tires, and it was to me, it was another delay in getting this project finished because we weren't going to be able to do anything else the rest of that day as far as this project goes. And as we were walking, to lighten the mood, we started cracking jokes with each other. Something to be positive about, and not something that were really easy to do considering the day we were having. And I can laugh now. At the time, it was forcing the laughter, just trying to break up the frustration and kind of anger almost at times, because it's like one more thing type of a feeling. And that's when my coworker brought up a couple of bucket list items that we had never walked this particular road before. I've been around this area for 17 years, and literally this was the only road we had not walked the length of. All the other ones we had done in sections or the full thing in one day, because some of our roads are pretty short out around here. But we've walked all of the roads within our territory. And the other one was my coworker had never had 2 flat tires at one time. I had, but it was one of those things where it's just it's frustrating as heck, but you just kind of have to work through that frustration. But as we walked along, this road is normally really, really heavily trafficked. I mean, we have to pull over in the work truck about every half a mile or so because there's at least one vehicle, if not two, going up or down on this road because it's just a busy dirt road. Oddly enough, this particular Wednesday, we had no traffic. In the entire 4 miles that we had to walk before our cell phone service kicked in, we saw 3 vehicles. They drove by and waved and continued on. Because people walking along this road is pretty common as well, so they didn't think anything of it seeing us walking down the road. I was like, oh, okay, that's weird. Anyway, the rain finally did stop, except for this random misty stuff that would pop up every now and then, but still no sun, so it was nice because it kept it from being too hot, because we've been averaging, for our area, it's extremely hot, but it's been like 91 to 97. I know people down in the southern United States are going to laugh, but for where we're at, that's really hot. The nice thing was, is as we were walking, you start to notice things. The air after the rainstorm was so fresh and clean. The sagebrush was smelling sweet again, and there was no dust. And we both have some form of an allergy, so if the sagebrush is really dry and it starts to blow around, the pollen that comes off of it and the dust it collects can really cause, sneezing and carrying on. But it was just so quiet and clean smelling. All of the pine trees that we were around, including the willows even, were almost glowing from the greenery. The fresh moisture and just that kind of dimmed light really made the green stand out. And as we were walking, and since we were walking and not driving, we noticed that there was still pockets of lupin, that really pretty purple flower. And it was scattered in and among the sage, but it was all the really short lupin. It was only like this tall, like 6 inches or so, sorry. But it was tucked in amongst the sage, and you'd never notice it when you're driving because it's literally hiding up behind the sage. So we just keep wandering down, trying to get to service, hoping that we could get a call out to somebody, and finally we do. And it's a supervisor on another crew who also is a friend of ours. And he comes and gets us. We go up, collect the tools out of the truck, because you don't want to leave them there overnight, and if it rains again, you really don't want to leave a lot of the stuff out. And we finally get home after, just over 12 hours of chaos that day. It was really super long. It was really exhausting. But even with all the chaos, even all the mishaps, we were safe, and that was the important part in my mind. I didn't care about the tires. Those are fixable. I didn't care about the machinery. It's replaceable if something happened to it. We were safe. That was, to me, the important part. But during the walk down, we were bringing up show tunes, stuff to distract our minds from the the little bit of anger and frustration that was building. And we were singing like show tunes. We were cracking jokes. We were talking about modern songs. We were discussing spiritual terms, because for me, I tend to bring up spirituality of some form in every aspect of my life because it is such an important part of what I believe, how I want to respond to life. It's all, for me, seen through a spiritual lens. And as we were walking, I kept trying to remember a quote from the Buddha, and because I've got so much, I've read so many of these books over the years, but I was trying to remember what the exact quote was, so I kind of improvised on the essence of the quote, since I couldn't remember the exact words. And what I was saying was, life is misery, finding joy is the key to surviving it. Not the exact quote, and I couldn't remember what it was. I talked to the people in my Facebook group, and I just kind of gave them an overview of what was happening, and still couldn't remember the quote. So when I decided to bring this up as a vlog for this channel, I really wanted to find the quote. So I went back through some of my books and dug around a little bit, and I found the quote I was looking for was actually from the first, where'd it go? The first pillar of noble truth. And the beauty of that is, or the phrasing of that is, life is and I'm probably going to say this wrong, so do forgive me, life is dukkha, or dukkha, which, according to some translations, equals life is suffering. But the term is not a simple one to define in our American English. It's not so much suffering or misery, it's more of overall negative experiences or experiences that are unsatisfying within our life. It's describing what life is to the unenlightened mind. It's something that if we can accept that, we can start to transcend it. And after we acknowledge that nothing is permanent, nothing is going to satisfy you in this life, we can see the cause of dukkha, or dukkha, which is greed or desire, something that translates basically into a craving, something you just want so much. It's that drive to find something out in the outside world to make your inside world happy. It's not a negative belief, it's a wake-up call to realize the attachment to this world are not means to happiness. You can never be happy by looking for it outside, is what the purpose of that was. And that's the first two pillars of Noble Truth. The third pillar is the end of this unsatisfactory point in life. The first is life is misery, life is unsatisfactory. 2, why is life misery? Because we're looking for greed, we're searching with desire, we're craving something outside of us to solve the problem. The third noble pillar is saying there is a cure. In a lot of metaphysical circles, this is a process of letting go of the outside world. It's not saying you have to reject the outside world. It means once you discover that the happiness and joy that you seek is all in your perspective, in how you respond to the world, in your heart, in your head, and in your soul, the outside experience becomes less important. It has less of an effect on you. It's this journey that you start to enjoy, not the experiences, because we're here on a journey, we're not here for experiences, because the experiences are waypoints on the journey. The journey is what we should be enjoying. And after that, it comes to the fourth noble truth, which is awareness of the first three pillars, frees us from dukkha or dukkha grasp. It releases us when we become aware that this life has a pattern. Understanding what drives that pattern, and then there's a cure for it. And once we come to the understanding that there's a way to escape this headache, then you can step into the fourth noble truth, which in Buddhist teaching is the Eightfold Path. It's their way of living life in alignment with your higher self, with alignment with the divine, a way to free yourself from the chaos that is life. 1 through 3 are life's truths. They're just what it is. There's no escaping it. This is what life is. 4 is the escape route. If you just focus on 1 through 3 and never move to number 4, you're never going to escape. And that's a good way to look at it when you look at how life really treats us. But doing this allows you to feel the peace through the chaos, the negativity, the fear. It allows you to deepen your compassion in a way that experiencing and trying to force the outside world to comply is never going to work. It deepens this connection to our spiritual belief, to our spiritual foundation, and to our spiritual higher power, that all energy on this planet is connected in a vibrational sense. So when you can change the stuff that's inside of you, the outside world is forced to change as well. And when I say forced, it's not like it's wrestling it to the ground. But when you can change your perspective from the inside, the outside world actually will shift into alignment with that. If you want to call it the law of attraction, that's fine. And if you have read a lot in the Bible, the Beatitudes that are in Matthew, and it's funny because if you separate that word, it's the Beatitudes, and it goes over a similar path of the Eightfold Path to when you can find humility, find humor, find calmness, it actually frees you from the cycle of the chaos. Various aspects of Wicca talk about releasing your connection and your hold on the intentions that you do. You build the intention, you put the focus and energy into it, you release it, and then you distract yourself with something enjoyable so that you're not focusing on what you're looking to change. Because to change it, you need to literally stop staring at what is. Learning to find that inner peace, not the pleasures of the world, frees us from the weight of the world. With the weirdness in the last week, this is how I was working through it in my own head, and through the frustration of that experience was, how can I find the funny? Don't focus on the negativity, don't focus on the frustration, don't focus on the fact we're walking 4 miles in the rain. Focus on what we can enjoy. And we both think that this happened for a reason. Mainly because nothing ever happens in our life that there's not a cause, or something happened that we were supposed to be involved in, not involved in, whatever that might be. And like when I say it happened for a reason, was it this happened so that we would dodge an accident? Maybe some office chaos? Who knows what it was, but something was going on that kept us away from town during that time period, causing us some frustration, but in the long term, there was a bigger cause for it. And we may never know what that is, or we might look back in a couple of months or a couple of years and see a pattern that was laid out, and it's going to be one of those aha moments like, that's why that happened, now I get it. We don't know, but we also know that there was a reason. And so we just kind of worked through it in that respect and let it go. And on that, a big thank you and appreciation to my coworker, who I will not name, but has to listen to my spiritual ramblings when the weirdness of life hits. And my coworker just rolls with it, and a lot of times we have a lot of similar beliefs, and so we can bounce ideas off of each other, and it's amazing. And with that, it's pretty much how last week went. It was a little chaotic, a little frustrating, but the big part is understanding that there's always a way to look at it from a different perspective. And at the end of the day, we were both safe. We were both got home all right. A blister or whatever on their foot is not a big deal in the grand scheme of things. And according to the people who worked on our vehicle, it's a quick fix. There's not going to be, it could be a little bit of a cost, but nothing huge. But we're all right. Everything's all right. We're going to be able to move back on with our life without any issues. So just kind of, if you can find a way to look at life in a more positive aspect when stuff happens, it will actually work out better for you. And that was kind of a little vlog. And like I said, we'll work on some other vlogs, maybe with some outdoor videos and stuff later. But for now, that's what we got. So I hope you have an awesome week and have a blessed week. And I will talk to you again in a future video. And do the YouTube-y thingies. Like if you like the video, subscribe if you like this kind of content, and leave comments below. I do appreciate them. My only request is that they be respectful even in their criticism. So I will talk to you guys at a later date. Have a good week.